Local time to just after 9, barring any red flags, and hopefully in that time the temperature might drop a little bit because it has been baking here all week. David Addison and John Watson trackside in a booth looking at the sunshine, everybody else outside getting the atmosphere, getting a suntan, and we're indoors, John.
I think we're better off inside, frankly, because it's a little bit more comfortable. We've had extreme heat here all day. It's cooled down a little bit, but it's still almost 35 Celsius. Track temperature dropped correspondingly a small amount. This short qualifying session, I mean, just finding track position.
Absolutely.
And you know, when you go out on a fresh set of tyres, or probably on a new set of tyres, you've got one real shot at the best of the tyre to ensure that you get that best lap in. And that will normally, one would assume, be in your first flying lap. Occasionally you can manage to drag a time out on the second flying lap. So we're looking at some of the cars that have 3 drivers per car. The cars that are currently out on track are the 4-driver car setups, if I'm correct. And already you're seeing tripping over one another coming through the penultimate 2 turns, turn 19, turn 20, preparing to come across start-finish line to go on to their first flying lap all the way up into La Source. On the brakes, don't lock it all up. Nicely done, get the traction down, of course, with the Porsche, all the weight over the rear axle gives you that additional bite. And away you go, down the hill, back at the fun fair, up we go through Rouge and over Radio.
And up towards Les Combes, you keep on climbing until you come out of Les Combes and you drop over the brow down towards Bruxelles. And then you think, oh, traffic, because with 72 cars, not necessarily for this session, but for Q2, Q3 and Q4, it's going to be busy out there.
It's just going to be, I mean, at some point, and we talked about it in the earlier pre-qualifying session, you will get bunches of cars. Don't know why it happens, but they just seem to get together at different parts of the racetrack. And in that bunch of cars, there will be some AMs, some better qualified AMs, some semi-pros, and then the full-on pro drivers. And they will all be looking to use every bit of the racetrack. Ricardo Sanchez here in the 22 Honda as an example of a driver who is a very experienced and skilled driver in a very good car. But there will be others around him who don't have that same level of ability. He needs to cherry pick where he's going to find his way through and around.
Ricardo Sanchez back with Bob Neville. He started the season, remember, having defected to Audi, but he's back with the RJN squad with the Honda. Great looking car, that, running in the Jenson Button Brawn colours that took into a world title. And Ricardo Sanchez does driving duties in Q1. So at the moment, he's actually the fastest of anybody within the first sector, but it's early days yet. That said, these 3 elements of qualifying disappear very quickly, especially on a long lap, because your out lap is long enough, never mind a flying lap.
Yeah, I mean, you've got, what, 10 minutes, just over 10 minutes of the session to go. So if you get held up in traffic and you lose that one good lap, then you're going to be in a back foot situation. Ralph Sanchez deciding the best way to find a way around a Porsche that's got good straight line performance, maybe not the quickest car of all 73 here this weekend in terms of its overall performance, but Sanchez is now going to be under his breath speaking in Mexican, well, it's Spanish basically, to try and find a way through. Red flag. Red flag.
We've had a couple of cars lose a lap time because of track limits anyway, but the red flag is shown very early indeed, and because it is qualifying,
there
so
we go.
The clock
the
stops.
Boots on
Oh dear.
BMW at the exit of, is that Pujon? No, it's not. It's coming. Is that coming out of the flip-flop? I think it might be. That's beyond Pujon. That's the little flip-flop before you come down into...
You're right. It's coming out of the pit path, isn't it?
Flip-flop, and hit the barrier, and that car didn't take very long. Didn't take very long, and of course, a lot of work now will be looking at Bob Neville inside the Jenson Team Rocket RJN team. So they've just lost what would have been a great lap because their car was purple in the first 2 sectors. So that time was never going to be a time established. They have to do it all over again, and that new set of tyres or that fresh set of tyres will have lost its edge. They will also have to do, they might have been able to get into the pit lane just before they made them through the turns 19 and 20. Everybody creeping around at 50 kilometers per hour. The BMW has actually got rolling again under its own steam. Damage, where is the damage, or is there any damage at all?
So a little bit on the front right. Eric Maris was the driver, and he's trying to get off the road to let the gravel drop onto the runoff rather than on the racing line. So he's doing the right thing.
Yeah, I think he's clobbered a light damage in the right front and the bodywork. You can see it there.
Yeah, the suspension's gone as well, isn't it? It's if you look at the right front, it's at a jaunty angle, that. So Eric Maris, who shares with Rostand Carrier-Moget and Giovanni Bonafede head back to the pit lane, and that potentially is the car out of qualifying for the night.
Oh, no, there's no question. I mean, they ain't going to get that repaired in the time available. And I mean, other than if it is fundamentally just unbolt the suspension, put a new one on, and take the bodywork. But I think when you take the bodywork, strip that away, and you can see that right front, the upper link in the wishbone has probably been broken off. So there's probably a lot more work than can be done in the time available.
And the mechanic, as he stood up there, did that time-honoured hand across the throat sign to say, that's it.
Well, that's what motor racing breeds optimism.
Yeah.
I love seeing guys that are. I mean, that's an example of how to be optimistic.
Quite. They'll do it for the race, but I think they realise that they're not going to bust a gut to get the car out. I mean, in fairness, it's a Pro-Am car. It's going to be near the rear of the grid anyway.
In fairness, you're right. And in fact, the best thing, the smart thing to do is to take the car back to the team garage, put it up on the axle stands, strip down all around that right front corner, but check all the other areas, the radiators in particular, the connections with the radiator to the water pipes, the oil pipes, to ensure that all those are secure, and prepare the car for tomorrow and forget about qualifying for the rest of this evening.
And of course, even though it had not done a lap time, it would lose the lap time anyway because it's caused the red flag. So you get hit twice.
Yeah, it didn't make it round on the first flying lap because the first car on the flying lap was Ricardo Sanchez and the Honda.
Indeed. There is number 77, the Barwell Lamborghini of Adrian Amstutz. That was quickest in the pre-qualifying session, not with him, but with Patrick Kuyler at the wheel of it. So now the teams start to get themselves ready. Another car that was going quickly. Yes, Sanchez had gone purple, but Ricky Collard had gone even more purple in the first sector. He was quicker than Sanchez, and so he's also lost out because of the red flag.
I mean, it's a massive, massive frustration for both the teams and in particular the driver, who has done all the hard yards, gone through the first sector, the second sector, just about to come up to complete a lap and get a good lap into the bin, I suppose you might say, and then an incident occurs somewhere. You have no idea what it is, but you have to bail out of it. If you're lucky, you can get into the pit lane and not have to do an additional lap, because everybody is so conscious. And look at the gravel that's been dragged back onto the circuit, and that's going to take another 4 or 5 minutes at best. And in this heat, I mean, we were talking earlier, David, about the marshals and the corner workers. Yeah. They will be unhesitatingly and unquestioningly, they will be the heroes for me of this weekend, because what they're doing out there, that is manual labor in 36, 35 Celsius conditions, and that's tough.
We have had a little bit of rain between the pre-qualifying and the start of qualifying, but only, relatively speaking, a few spots. So it's still a very, very hot evening, and the drivers, of course, now stuck in the cars, taking on liquid, yes, keeping the doors open, yes, but getting hotter and hotter.
So more and more people are turning up at the scene of the incident, and well, I wonder just where the tyre bales, which is what I suspect the BMW made the contact with, which then led to the right front suspension being damaged. Will they need to be restacked, or are they in a position where their integrity is such that everything is fine? Just get the gravel off the racetrack and let this field go with just 10 minutes, 27 seconds to go. So one out lap was going to take them 2.5 minutes minimum.
Yes, in many cases, it perhaps won't affect the grid hugely because you don't have the Pro Cup cars, and what you do have are largely the slower drivers. You tend to put your gun driver in for Q4, but even so, it's going to have an effect on the grid. The track sweeping device is there. The race director, Alain Adon, Belgian himself, overseeing all of this. There is the queue down the endurance pits with number 6 ready to go, Hubert Haupt in the Mercedes, Ricardo Sanchez there again. He's trying to get himself to the head of the queue. 37 BMW of the Valkenhorst team, Philippe Bourgeois. You scroll down the pit straight. 27, there is Fernando Navarrete, and number 16, about to try and elbow its way in, the Canadian driver John Shen in the Porsche.
So Ferrari at the very front of the field. It's going to use an opportunity and scoot away, but you can see the amount of gravel that's been deposited as the BMW made its way back onto the racetrack. I thought 5 minutes might be sufficient, but yeah, I'm not sure I'm right in that.
It's interesting to ponder whether, had the car driven away before the flag came out, whether the circuit would have been swept or people would have carried on driving through it and the gravel would have been swept away by the race cars. As it is, we had the red flag.
Well, the gravel might have been swept away by those following cars, but it might have swallowed up another car that was following through, because other than, you know, you get a warning, maybe a waved yellow flag, maybe 2 waved yellow flags, but racing drivers being what they are, they slow down to a point where they think they're going slow enough, but sometimes that isn't slow enough for the conditions they're about to encounter.
That's Michele Beretta, good to go. Hubert Hout we've seen. Some of the Mercedes running fabulous liveries this weekend, and there's another one.
I tell you
what,
Black
Falcon squad.
I mean, the things you can do with a wrap, and I don't mean a wrap that you can eat. These cars are not painted. These are very fine plastic film wraps. And the skill in actually fitting them to the car is amazing. I've seen it done, and it's just unbelievable. And of course, this is why you can get such amazing car. I mean, if you look at the 00, the Good Mile Racing and Type Moon Racing Mercedes has got the most fantastic graphics of any probably racing car here this weekend.
Engines fire up. Green flag is now shown, so the session is live. Who's at the head of the queue, because they now are holding people up a little bit.
Well, it's the Ferrari, there it is.
Yeah, one of the Rinaldi cars.
Yeah.
So we're back in business. We lost about 6 minutes with that. Looking at the pit stop times. So there is 488 that heads up the hill.
Yeah, Pierre Eret, Martin Bennett, Balbellini and Rory Penttinen from Finland.
Yeah.
Rory? I didn't know that was a Finnish name.
It's unusual, isn't it?
It is.
Did quite a bit of racing in America to begin with. Rory Penttinen. So, hopefully, shortly, we'll start to get times offered up here. 9.5 minutes, as you see, and counting are on the clock. There goes, out of the left-hander of Speaker's Corner, Pierre Eret in 488.
Yeah, but by the time he comes across start-finish line, it's going to be something like 8.5 minutes of the session remaining. And that's for the car that's leading the group of cars that were at the head of the chain as they came down to go back onto pit lane. There's the scene of the crime. There's still a certain amount of residue there. You can see just the dust being kicked up, but clearly it's pretty much fine for the driver to get through. So 15 seconds to get across start-finish line to make my prediction correct.
Let's see, there is the Ferrari then. So 488 accelerates on, and the Rinaldi team with the car that operates within the AM Cup heads towards the timing line shortly out of Blanchimont. Road to itself, pushing on. Pierre Eret, experienced driver, been around for many, many years in FIA GT3 in its early days, as well as the VLN, as well as Blancpain. And here he comes up towards the timing line. Now, even if he thinks he's been really clever here and got a clear road, that might go against him shortly, because it won't be long, I suspect, before he does encounter traffic. Over the timing line he goes, heads up towards La Source, and will start at the end of this lap to start to look at times. It's a bit like Silverstone all over again, isn't it? You just don't have the time after a stoppage.
Absolutely not.
To get a lap time in.
I mean, as a benchmark time, the time from Creek qualifying earlier this afternoon when the track and the ambient was much was higher. 2 minutes 20.1. We saw a 2 minutes 20.0 set earlier this morning, but the 2:20.1 was this afternoon's time. So if Pierre Eret can find a way to get that Ferrari somewhere in the 2:23s, would probably be fairly happy, I would have thought, for a first flying lap.
Yeah, go along with that. And really, given the length of the race, okay, yes, you want to qualify as well as you can, but 72 rather, cars on the grid, it's going to be tough wherever you are. The first few laps will be damage limitation. Try and keep out of people's way, get through without any dramas.
And runs a bit deep and wide coming down into this long, where is the apex? Well, there's probably 2 of them. Then cutting back to the right-hand side to go through a corner that has a name, but generally known as a corner without a name. Then down to what I think is the best corner on the circuit. It's a big challenge because you can't quite take it flat, certainly not in a GT3 car. And that's Pujol. But you're able to let the car then release on the second part of the corner and almost float out to the exit of the corner.
So Eret, as you see, is starting to approach the traffic. We'll get an idea of who is doing what in terms of the times. Don't forget that we have the Super Pole competition for tomorrow evening. And there is Eret going down now through campus, this short run up towards the approach of the Cours Paul Frere. And Eret obviously is doing personal best because it's his first flying lap, looking pretty strong. But really, it's a class pole position in the AM Cup that he's after here, not the front of the grid itself.
Yes, and I mean, I think when you see the pro drivers out in contrast, the amount of energy that you will see being put into the race car with Pierre Eret, he's an AM driver, and the car is not being used to the limit of its capacity. But that's what an AM driver is there to do. He's not there to try and wring the neck of a race car. So I thought 2:23 might be his, somewhere in the 2 minutes 23 point something. So let's see. Well, obviously I was right about that, 2:24.5, but he did get purple in that final sector, so about a second and a bit away from what I anticipated. His next lap should be a better lap because it's about confidence, and once you've established a time, you've got a sense and feel for what the racetrack is giving up in the way of grip. And also just simple things like, where is the sun setting, by the way? Is it going to be in my eyes as I come up the hill to go into the chicane, or will it be in another part of the racetrack that might momentarily cause me to turn my head away or maybe blink to enable my not to be blinded? So down the hill through Pouhon, Nick Hummerson in the 52 Ferrari. We watched one of the Mercedes go through. Track down at the exit of flip-flop, now looking pretty good. There is Nick Hummerson in the 52 Ferrari.
And we've got a couple of drivers losing lap times. One of them is John Shen for track limits, and the other is car 36, the Valkenhorst BM of Henry Valkenhorst.
I mean, I don't want to be a spoiled sport, but I'm delighted to see that we are seeing drivers having times cancelled for track limit abuses. I know that I went on about it this afternoon ad infinitum, but you know, I do believe that if you're a racing driver, you stay within the limits of the racetrack and you don't use, well, coming out of Blancpain, not that particular time, but other drivers we saw having all four wheels not just across the demarcation line and the exit of the corner, but actually well and truly over the green paint, which might be to AstroTurf or whatever. So Hummerson's got a time to beat, and currently it's at 2:21.3, so that's car 19, which is a pretty impressive time for the Grasser Racing. Currently is the quickest car.
Except Michele Beretta has just gone quicker faster. Yeah, so 5:55, Michele Beretta for the Orange 1 FFF Racing Team, and here's Ricky Collard, who's about to go top because he's done purple. So the R Motorsport Aston Martin has got to beat now Beretta's 2:21.226. He's got his sights on Beretta.
Well, easy.
Ricky Collard does a time of, it's confirmed on the timing screen late, 2:20.763.
That's a good run for Ricky.
It is.
That would have put him yet this afternoon, 12th quickest amongst the 73 entries. It's a good effort from Ricky Collard.
Yeah.
And he'll be delighted with that time.
He's raced here in single
Tristan Baudier just getting himself ready because he's going to be the first out of the pros. Disgusting. Sucking your earplugs. Hope he washed his ears up this morning.
Each their own. Right, BMW here on a mission, but the Porsche getting in the way as they come to the bus stop. That's going to spoil the effort, isn't it, of the Valkenhorst car that goes around the outside, gets the place, but that's a big frustration there. Yeah,
and the problem was the Porsche was not aware of the BMW trying to find a way around. There was a much higher exit speed from the BMW, and the Porsche was meandering around a little bit on the exit of Blancpain, which would have been concerning. But Ricky Collard that time, 2:20.7. He'll be happy with that. I think he'll be very happy indeed.
So that's a Pro-Am car, but Collard the quickest by 0.463 of a second at the moment. There is 91 Porsche, which is in the walls a little bit because of a penalty going into the race, more of which are not. Daniel Allemann, the Swiss driver, is behind the wheel of it at the moment. Currently, that car is 12th fastest. Allemann, graduate of Carrera Cup Germany in the B class, the AM class.
And just to give you an idea of the pace that has taken place in the space of 2 laps, Pierre Eret, who we were watching, initially had a lap of 2:23.4, has dropped from quickest down to 11th. So pretty competitive grid of drivers, but people like Ricky Collard is the pro in that Silver Cup car.
We've had also a spin for number 80 of Jean Saint-Just, the Chinese driver. He's been off the road. Allemann still hustling on, but Ricky Collard right now looking very good. Nobody else is doing purples. We still haven't got any more than 31 times, so it gives you an impression of just how strong the pro class is, because half the field hasn't gone out yet. Yeah. It won't do until Q2.
Collard is on another lap. So we've got purple in sector 1, sector 2, so wait to see what he does when he comes up to completion of this. Will be his 5th lap. So he does a 20.359, a further improvement, and that would have put him 20.3, would have had him go 4th quickest.
Not bad
from
at
the
all.
start. So that's
Yeah.
good effort, SRO Motorsport. Ricky Collard.
Now Daniel Alaman up towards the timing line, but he's actually down in the middle sector. So Daniel Alaman, I don't think he's going to really do a huge amount. I know he even bails, goes into the pit lane. The car has a time, and with 56 seconds to go, there's no point in doing another lap. You just come in and hand over to your next driver.
Absolutely. When you establish your time, you've had the best of your tyre, bring it in, save that set of tyres. You'll want them for later in the weekend. So even one extra lap takes that little bit of additional performance away. So bring it in, do the driver change with no pressure. If you want to make a change to your car, then you're not under pressure again to make that change. That's a car that should be a very quick car, the 93. Or maybe I'm mistaking it for the one that Chris Buncombe should be in.
No, I think you're right. It is that car.
It's that 93 car.
It is indeed, which was entered with Giancarlo Fisichella as one of the drivers.
Now that's the car with Chris Froggatt, Edward Cheever the 15th, and Giancarlo Fisichella.
Yeah, so
not
Chris Buncombe
Buncombe
stands down for this weekend because that's the car he would have been in.
Okay.
So Jonathan Hui and Chris Froggatt, the regulars, are in. Eddie Cheever, the 3rd, plus Giancarlo Fisichella.
Is it 3rd or 4th? Because
I think he calls himself the 3rd. But
okay, because there's Eddie Cheever Jr., who I competed with.
Yes.
And there's Eddie Cheever Sr., who ran a gym facility in Rome. And then Eddie Jr., and then you had Ross Cheever as well.
That's right, I forgot about him.
Yeah,
he came into British Formula 3, didn't he?
Championed by a number of very eminent British motorsport journalists.
That's right. I forgot all about Ross Cheever. Right, Ricky Collard, quicker again, 2 minutes 20.359. His next lap is a slower one, and the flag is out anyway. There is Florian Scholzer in 4.44, the Ferrari. Florian Scholzer moving up from the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, but he's an experienced driver, is Scholzer. He's been in the German GT Championship for a few seasons. We've seen him racing this year in endurance and sprint. He's fully committed to a real busy program this year.
So he's got a nice clear road ahead, and one is assuming that he's going to go on and complete this lap. Currently 8th quickest, 2 minutes 23.1. Oh, a bit squirrely under brakes. You can just see the car dancing around, and he's going to finish the lap. So can he make any further improvement? So in 8th place currently, comes across the line and remains in 8th place.
But therefore loses another 3-4 minutes by driving back to the pit lane. Okay,
correct.
He was quicker than he had been in Sector 1, but down in Sector 2, you could argue the team should have said, Bale, come into the pit lane. Now there is a car you're familiar with, but not these drivers so much. The GPX Racing Gulf liveried Porsche this weekend is Richard Leeds, Michael Christensen and Kevin Est. Christensen and Est, the 2 drivers that won the GTE Pro contest in the World Endurance Championship, and that is going to be a very quick car indeed. Ignore Robin Frins, he's in the Audi. That's Richard Leeds.
Yeah, I was going to say, certainly has Robin Frins jumped Brand.
No.
But this car, run by a young Frenchman, 30-year-old Frenchman, who also, as a hobby, drives historic Formula 1 cars from the 70s. I think maybe in a shadow of some description or other. I'm not sure which model it would have been. Some of them were better than others.
This is Pierre Bryce Maynard.
Maybe.
Right, yes. He's got a Shadow DN8. He was at Silverstone 2 weeks ago. The 77 Alan Jones type one. Right, that makes sense now. 117 you're looking at, ready to go, is the Timo Bernhardt team car, and that's going to be Earl Bamber, Timo Bernhardt and Lawrence Van Thorp, eager to redeem himself for dropping the ball in the Nürburgring 24 hours.
And that was the car that was quickest this morning by about a 10th of a second from the best we've seen from this afternoon or now this evening. So one would hope and expect to see that car maybe getting into the 1 minute 19s, or 1:18 would be even prettier.
Let's have a quick look at the order thus far. Ricky Collard the fastest by 8 tenths in the end from Michele Beretta. Arno Santamato ahead of Renaud Salikov's Ferrari. Dennis Dupont was 5th and Jonathan Hui 6th fastest. Christina Nielsen 7th in a car effectively a replacement because she crashed in the bronze test, so not a bad effort that. 8th, Florian Scholzer, Hubert Haupt is 9th, and Raymond Vos, 10th. 11th, Jiri Pisarik, making a welcome return ahead of Ricardo Sanchez, Pierre Arat, Daniel Alaman, and Derek Pearce for Team Parker Racing.
Yeah, good effort by Christina Nielsen. Apparently she is feeling slightly battered and bruised from that shunt that she had at the top of Radio. 180 kilometers per hour was the figure that was mentioned, that whether that was the impact speed or whether that was the speed that she lost control at. It's all somewhat irrelevant. It's all a bit quick to hit something. And
exactly.
Anyway, the the Striker Racing team have done a very good job to get that car turned around. And in one sense, the only good fortune they have is that it happened in a session that wasn't an official session as such. So there's no penalty in terms of grid position.
So the fan's ready. The temperature dropping as well, of course, as we go into the evening. So it gets cooler. It should get quicker. It's not much cooler. It might be a degree.
I tell you what, when I walked up here about 20 minutes ago, I was sweating like a racehorse. I mean, I talked about my zebra shirt.
Yes.
And I was surprised. There's very little noticeable difference in the ambient. And if it gets down to 20 degrees at midnight tonight, I'll be surprised. Down to 33.2. It's about a degree cooler than it was about 20 minutes, half an hour ago.
Okay, so we are good to go. Florian Scholzer has lost a lap time, incidentally. We were focusing on him at the end, but he's lost a lap time for track limits. There is the queue, ready to go. Number 30, the Honda Team Motul, the entrant, and it's Mario Farnbacher, Renger van der Zande and Bertrand Baguette to do the driving. There is Ricky Collard and his mum.
Matt Parry comes along and says, well done, my man. Yeah. Matt, of course, is in one of the pro cars. Two young Chargers looking for a big future, maybe in Blancpain and GT3. And Ricky, he's always so positive. He always exudes. Yeah. He's always a happy chappy.
Yeah, and he's good with the media and comes and finds you and will talk to you about things. He's just a very gregarious guy.
Nicely rounded kid.
Indeed. Now, down at the pit lane, please welcome to Europe the American voice of Ryan Marine with Ricky Collard.
Ricky, fastest in that session, and by a pretty large margin. You were just telling me a moment ago you've never had a pole before. How satisfying was that lap?
It's been really close. You know, the Blancpain series is so tough. And, you know, we had a P2. I've had a P4. I've never quite eked it out for a pole position, but I'll take that. Definitely.
Fantastic lap. Well done.
No, thank you. And a massive thank you as well just to all the team. And I really appreciate all the support. So thank you, everyone, back at home as well.
John said a moment ago, a properly rounded individual. There's the proof of it, because he is a nice guy, Ricky Collard. He's a very, very quick racing driver as well. And in GT racing, he's found a really good niche for himself.
Yeah, and I think what he has found is that niche. I mean, I remember watching him, what, 3 years ago at Donington Park in a junior formula, single-seater formula. Yes. And the expectation, of course, is the pressure of Dad, Rob there, and the family, and the girlfriend as well. You know, all the family accoutrements. Yeah. And he didn't win the race. And I mean, it was as if it was almost like a relief to get that weight off his shoulders, move into a form of racing where he can express himself in a way where he's now coming through as a very important contributor to our motorsport here this weekend.
And there is the car, 762, which is the Ricky Collard now, Ferdinand von Habsburg, DTM driver, Hugo de Sadelier and Aro Vigno driven car. They're the other drivers still to go.
Yeah.
So the fans offer a better vantage point of elsewhere, or they're off for another beer. And Q2 is about to get underway. We're about half a minute off the green flag.
Big difference is, and you will notice it when you see it on track, is there'll be 72 cars.
Yes. Maybe
73. Will our Herbie be in that field?
Definitely, but we lost one of the two Dyco Lazarus Racing Lamborghinis, so we are 72. Down to a paltry 72. I'm sorry about that.
This is where it's going to become, well, what can you do? You're good or you're lucky. I doubt somebody's going to be both in this session for sure.
Do you go out at the start and try and get clear track space, or do you go out at the end and hope that people have pitted early and then you can have a go?
One of the problems is those people that are in the pit lane where we're looking down on what is the Formula One pits here. The historic pits or the older pits at Spa is on the other side of La Source. So those teams have all rocked up and they can potentially get on track. So if you're maybe the Lamborghini team, Andrea Caldarelli's team, they're the very first team in the pit lane, which is great, but they've got to wait probably for the entire field to make its way up and down and get back. So I don't know, frankly, what you do. I think you've got one lap in which you've got to do it in. And with the volume of traffic coming out, if you're not clear of the field, as we saw the Mercedes just going into the Coombe, and Porsche likewise sort of reasonably trying to give himself a little bit of space, but this is the worst situation now behind the 91 Porsche. There's about 8 or 9 cars all bunched up, all going to be tripping over one another, and the 91 Porsche is probably the slowest of that group of cars.
Yeah, you're right. So, first out was 117, Earl Bamber. He's going to be the man to watch here, the Double Le Mans winner. And you see how crowded it is, people looking for clear track space. The repair 97 Aston Martin goes through the shot with Ahmad Al-Hafi at the wheel of it. There, he's 999. Maxi Bouk put behind the wheel of it for this part of qualifying. Maxi Bouk out first, going for it. Clear road ahead of him now.
Absolutely.
By the end of the lap, though, he's going to get traffic, isn't he?
Yes, he is, but he's got the 99, oh, sorry, the 88 directly behind him. And that is not going to be any walk in the park, because whoever's behind the wheel, and Michael Meadows, noticing this week, Michael Meadows is not in that car this weekend.
No,
Fabian
indeed.
Schiller has been drafted into the team. So there's a story we need to look into a little bit more deeply.
Part of it is a bit of shuffling, because Raffaele Marciello races, of course, in Blancpain GT Challenge Europe and also the Endurance Cup, but he also does the Intercontinental GT Challenge. So I think what they've done is shuffle drivers around to give them a better chance in the championship they are doing better in at the moment. So that means
Which championship is Michael doing better in then?
not as well as the others in Europe, I think. But yeah,
well,
it's a tough one, and I'm glad I don't have to make the decision. But that's why Marciello has been moved across to the other car.
So Maxi Bouk takes a very unnatural race line, but it's the best line to get maximum thrust and drive off the final turn, turn 20, and up across start-finish line, with the 88 following pretty much in its foot tracks. No, in its wheel tracks, not foot tracks, wheel tracks. Porsche third into La Source, so they're reasonably spaced apart, not to come into others. The aerodynamics, in other words, on a high-speed circuit like this, particularly the middle part of the circuit, which is the aerodynamic part. I hate watching cars exiting the pit lane as others are jumping across the curbing on the inside of radio, but that's the pit lane exit on the left of the cars as they come through radio.
So now our timing screen looks like a who's who of GT racing. There is Maxi Bouk then. He is going to be the man to beat on this first flying lap. But if you get clear track space, A, well done, you're a better man than us, Gunga Din. And secondly, you could go quicker than the Mercedes. But right now, Bouk is maximising track position. Martin Tomczyk has done an absolute best in the first sector. So Maxi Bouk did a 40.2. Tomczyk's gone 2/10 quicker. That's good.
That's very good. Now, normally Maxi Bouk is pretty much on it. He's got fastest sector time first sector. So this is his problem. He's now got to face 4 cars directly ahead of him. One of them was that 30 Porsche, stays well and truly off the racing line. Good cooperation, and that's what you expect from a professional driven car.
That was Rickard Leeds getting out of the way. Number 20, the Gulf liveried Porsche. Tomczyk's going to be down in the middle sector because he's been stuck in traffic. And now Dennis Olsen for the Rover Racing Porsche team, number 99. He's done the absolute best in the first sector. So we're getting all excited about Bouk, but 4/10 quicker in one sector has gone Dennis Olsen.
Mega, absolutely unbelievable. Here's the problem Bouk's got. He's caught up to the tail of some of the slightly slower classes, and he's going to find it difficult to get clear before he gets into Blanchimont, and that will slow him down in this last third of the lap.
That's not a slow car. That's Miguel Molina in the SMP Racing Silverstone winning Ferrari.
You're correct. I was just looking at the tail of the car, not at the front of it.
Yeah.
So that's a 72 Ferrari.
Correct.
So it is it on an outlap or is it on a flying lap?
It's on an outlap. And here comes Bouk then to try to get up the inside. It's a crowded house ahead of him. This is exactly what we feared and exactly what he doesn't need.
Indeed, and it's the 88, the red Mercedes that's following is going to be the beneficiary, except that the Ferrari cuts across the nose of the 88 as it comes through the exit of the corner. So Max Bouk comes across the line, 2:22.0, so quickest time. Vincent Abril and Earl Bamber, 2:20.047. So it's Porsche, Mercedes, 51, Frank Pereira in the Lamborghini. Max Bouk only 4th, and he will be very indeed disappointed.
Absolutely, but he has another go. Martin Tomczyk will be a bit Albert's mother as well, because he was only 5th ahead of Ralph Byrne, then Matt McMurray. But Earl Bamber then for Porsche is the fastest, and he's actually over a second up on the Mercedes of Vincent Abril. Ivan Pereira's 3rd in the leading Audi.
Yeah, that's all due to the congestion coming into turn 19 and 20, the chicane. Oh, it's a big commitment through there. You hold your breath every time you go through it. You stand on the outside of the corner. The cars look actually quite small going through there, but it is a big, big commitment, in spite of the fact that the corner's a mere shadow of its former self. It's almost a straight line through there. But with the degree of downforce that these GT3 cars generate, it's still a big challenge.
Absolutely right. So Martin Tomczyk here comes through Les Combes, and now over the brow. All you can see there instantly is the runoff area. The corner's actually hidden. Now it opens up. Now you see it. Now you know where to turn. So Tomczyk, who is currently 9th, is up at the first sector. As you can see, he's found 29 thousandths over his previous lap time. So Tomczyk, DTM champion, is having, as Peter Brock used to say, a red-hot go here, and he comes down the hill now, heading towards Port.
But it's Porsche first and second, Earl Bamber first, Sven Muller second, and he's now been displaced by the Aston Martin 62, Maxime Verviers. So that's a strong run indeed, 2 minutes 20.333, but still almost 0.3 of a second down on Earl Bamber's time.
So Bamber looking good. Red flag! Red flag! That's going to go against Tomczyk and everybody. Jordan Pepper's Bentley has just gone second on a 2:20.299. Mathieu Verviers third, and that's the reason. Off the road is number 17 Audi, and that is the Brit Alex McDowell, who is off at Les Combes, as John rightly says.
So he's lost the back of the car coming through the second part of Les Combes, and whether he then ran the back of the car, as it looks like a massive snap oversteer, and it's sort of nosed its way into the barrier. Whether there's damage or not, it's hard to tell from that shot. You can't really see if there's any bits of the bodywork that are detached. And the car's in a position where it's been deemed unsafe for the marshals to return it to the racetrack.
I mean, if anybody runs wide, they're going to strike that. It's a no-brainer, isn't it?
And I mean, Earl Bamber will be sitting back in the garage. Oh, there it is, the left front at his damage. You can see the tyre barrier and the baling. So that's a big hit on the left front. So disappointment indeed. That's you know, for Team WRT, Alex McDowell, that's Shea Davis as well, and Paul Petit. So that car is not going to have any further running this evening.
So it loses the lap time that it would have set. It didn't actually do so, but under the regulations, you cause a red flag, you lose your lap time. But also, it means that the team now has a car to rebuild, and potentially his two co-drivers miss out on track time that they need.
Most importantly, will it put the team under pressure to get the car ready for this evening's nighttime running, because it is mandatory that every competitor has, I think, a number of 5 laps or so in darkness.
Good point, yeah.
So, I mean, BMW, we saw the left front or the right front of it hanging off. It no doubt can be repaired in time sufficiently to get the car to run at night time, and I'm sure they'll do the same with the 17 WRT Audi.
They're 63 ready to go. That is the familiar Grasser Racing Team Mirko Bortolotti driven Lamborghini. So all of this, of course, eats into the night because things are being delayed and delayed because of the red flags, one in each of the sessions thus far. Remember, we've got 4 qualifying segments, not the normal 3, because many of the cars have the 4 drivers.
Less than half the field have recorded a time. We've got 8.5 minutes of the session remaining. So, will any of those first half of the field that have recorded a time want to try and improve? Because the remaining field, including Mario Engel, Charles Verts, who else? Well, going down to the bottom of the field, Dennis Lind in the 563 Lamborghini, Phil Keen in the 509 Lamborghini, Christopher Mies. I mean, well, Jordan Pepper's just actually... No, his time, he didn't. It must have lost the time because Jordan Pepper's time has not been a recorded time.
It must have happened just after the red flag, so it's disallowed. I was about to offer you another 4, because if you think about British GT, they run standalone sessions for the GT3 and the GT4 cars. Is there a case when you have a busy grid like this to say, tell you what, we'll do one qualifying session for the pros and the AMs, and then we'll do another one for the AMs alone, as an example? Give people more track space.
I think that the issue is there's an enormous amount of pressure on everybody because of the size of the field, because of the duration, the short qualifying sessions, to get a time in to get the job done. And varying degrees of driver skill and ability are beginning to be shown up.
So keep going on that track. I'll steer you a bit more. It's a short session, and the grid, okay, yes, it's important for where you start. You don't want to be in the pack and get involved in an incident. However, you can be on the front row and have an incident, as Alessandro Pierguidi proved one year. So should there not be responsibility for the teams to say to some of the drivers that are liable only to be in the mid of the pack, just drive around, just take it easy. We're not interested in the time, we just want to survive.
Thierry Tassin looking very dapper with his...
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he's looking down and concerned, obviously, one of his cars that's caused this red flag. So he'll want to get that car back at the earliest opportunity, get it back into that WRT garage, get the front stripped down, see the damage that's been done, get the new parts out. They will see certainly the left front corner and the bodywork, whether that involves radiators, coolers or whatever, air ducts, brake ducts, you know.
That was the one that missed the Monza race, wasn't it? Because it was damaged on the Sunday morning in qualifying. It's had a tough year, that car. So up it goes. I
thought a change of colour might have changed his luck, you know.
No, you can do all these things, but sadly...
Well, that one isn't going to drive back.
No, you're right. Oh, now you start to see how mangled the front
left corner the left front's mangled. And the danger is not so much the suspension damage. Has it done any damage to the fundamental structure, the subframe that holds the whole front suspension together? If that's been damaged, then that's a major problem. That cannot be repaired in the sort of period of time we've got this evening. So that's why there's concern on the face of Thierry Tassin.
And there is Pierre Dieudonné, who, like Vincent Voss, like Thierry, is a former winner of the event. In the touring car era, Pierre was a victor for Tom Walkinshaw's raucous Mazda RX-7 outfit.
I had an RX-7 for a while, yeah.
And?
That was a very good car. The only thing was, of course, they relied a lot on oil as part of the cooling. They used oil quite a lot. But there was a rotary engine. I remember back when the Row 80, the NSU Row 80 came out. And I drove it and I thought it was just a fantastic car. But Mazda took the rotary engine theme and developed it and still are, I think, manufacturing them.
I do Thierry Tassin an injustice because he's a 3 times winner of the event for BMW, twice in a 635, there was a car in Group A touring cars, and once in a BMW 320i.
So where is that? It can't be the 63 surely, because it was sitting in the bottom of the pit lane waiting for the track to open.
Yes.
I don't think it is the 63.
It is. It's on the track map. It is 63.
It is. Well, what's it doing trundling around? It was at the bottom of the pit lane. Because the flag at the course had gone red and it was sitting at the bottom of the pit lane.
However, to get it back to its team, which is in the top pits, and it was at the bottom of the endurance pits, it's been allowed round to get back to its team.
Yeah, and it's running on the limiter the entire way round. I'm not aware of seeing a situation like that where he was prepared to go on the track and then he's been given a bye to go back to the pit lane to get back to where he originally started from.
We're understanding, though, there's going to be a 20-minute delay, so the race director has said you can go back to your team, and the only way to get there is to drive around the circuit.
That's a good decision in that case.
And that's the reason for the delay. There's the sweeping up and there's the tire
indicates to me there's a bit of damage to the tire. We saw, in fact, the rubber baling that is attached to the tire wall had been pulled away, so they need to redress that situation. So a real frustration for the 63 Lamborghini and for over half the field.
I mean, what that does, of course, is now put it at the back of the queue, not the front. But Bortolotti, presumably, was asked by the team to do that rather than ask for it himself. So you wonder what the benefit was of giving up track position, unless he had no choice, unless he was told you will go to the back. However, number 16 is being reported to the stewards. That is the John Shen, now Philippe Descombes Porsche, for not exiting the pits in the fast lane. So in other words, it stayed on the apron. It didn't come into the fast lane and join the queue. Yeah. So the stewards...
A small detail, but motorsport today is all about detail.
Si vous cherchez une équipe Mercedes, vous savez où elle est, une équipe McLaren. McLaren, parce qu'il n'y a pas de McLaren. Mais j'allais dire une équipe Aston Martin.
So there is the Gen 2 Nissan, 2 of them here this weekend. Chiho-san, of course, was part of Bob Neville's lineup last year.
Won the championship with him, didn't he, back in 2015?
Yeah.
Seems like a long time ago, that Nissan title at the Nürburgring. There's 35, ready to go back out, as you say, with Katsumasa Chiyo at the wheel of it. Now, it's a Nissan, yes, but it's the KCMG team rather than Bob Neville, seeing that he is now running the Honda.
Fair bit of damage, more than I thought looking at it. I mean, I didn't think it was a big hit. And if that's the damage that was done to the tire bales and the wrapping that goes around them, maybe there's a bit more damage and concern from WRT on the left front of the 17 Audi.
Wonder whether he did that on his own or whether there was an assist, because he's gone a long way off there to do all that damage.
All I can think is he got a tank slapper and it just snapped back to the left and he was a passenger.
Yeah.
Maxime Martin looking into the car.
Mathieu Vazivière is the man behind the wheel of it, ready to go, and he's second fastest at the moment.
Yeah, and that sort of popped up unexpectedly. We saw Ricky Collard doing a great job on his run to go quickest of all, and in fact Ricky Collard's time is probably not different by about a tenth or less of a second to that of Mathieu Vazivière.
So the order is Bamber, Vazivière, Sven Muller in 98 Porsche, ahead of Vincent Abril. Darren Burke, currently the fastest of Pro-Am. Darren, historic Formula Ford racer, an occasional Blancpain competitor, very quick, much underrated. 6th is Patrick Assenheimer's Mercedes, 7th is Colm Ledergaard's Aston, 8th is Ivan Pereira's Audi, 9th Gerhard Ferraz's Lamborghini, and 10th is Maxi Buch's Mercedes that we got all excited about at the start of the session.
Yep, and again, look at the
Blimey, swept those a long way out.
I certainly did. I mean, that's why I'm thinking about the left front damage to the Audi is possibly a lot more than the superficiality that we saw when the car had bounced off the wall. If it got into the barrier, it obviously knocked the tire bail out of the way. If it got into the barrier, then it would be cause for concern. Two Hondas here this weekend. Bob Neville run one.
And then the Motul.
Yes, Honda Team Motul with Mario Farnbacher, Renger van der Zender and Bernard Baguette. And that's the car we're looking at. So identical cars. And that's no, I beg your pardon, that's the 22. That's the 22 Bob Neville run car. Identical cars, but just different status drivers and running in different categories.
Right, so we're about a quarter of an hour off the session getting back underway. Apologies, while the barrier is attended to. And while we have this gap, let's catch up with Matters Bentley, because patrolling the pit lane, Brian Marine has caught up with the Spanish driver Andy Soucek.
Well, Andy, here we are with red flag conditions, not ideal. What does this do from a driver's mentality perspective as you try and get yourself in the zone, but then we have this big delay?
Yeah, for sure. Pipo is in the car now. He went out on new tires, and the problem is obviously after red flag, the peak of the tire is gone. So you need to adjust your driving style a little bit, but you can still get a good lap time. Main thing here is not to get too much traffic with 72 cars on track. It's quite hectic, especially in the last chicane. So the only mission that we have is to try and have a clean lap, set a lap time, and if possible be in Super Pole, but it'll be tough.
You do a lot of racing with these Bentleys in the US, and some of your US crew is here as well. How neat is it having them embedded with the M-Sport guys having K-Packs here too?
It's great to have so many people. I mean, if you look in our garage, we have like 55, 60 people. It's well organized though, and we have Thomas Blam doing the strategy, who is doing our strategy at K-Packs as well. Not the same 90-minute races than 24 hours, so he needs to adjust a little bit to that mentality, but he's doing well with the program, with the software. And then Darren Law just came to just to see us, and Sebastian, our engineer of Rodrigo and Max, is also here with Par 109. So it's great to have them here, and good team spirit.
This is a fantastic event. The car count is massive. How difficult is that going to be during the race?
Well, the race is going to be very difficult because, as you can feel now, it's very hot today, but obviously there is a lot of rain coming for the weekend, so qualifying is part of the job. But for me, the main thing will be to stay out of trouble, to try and keep the car on track. It's going to be heavy rain at some point, so we're working on that already, and we need to prepare as best as possible.
Starting up front helps when the rain comes. That's where you want to be, presumably, with all the spray behind you.
Yeah, I mean, I say qualifying is not important, but you're absolutely right, it is, because you want to be starting on the front. It's obviously very difficult if you're starting P20 or in the middle of the field, because the spray is so big that you don't see anything. But let's don't make any weather predictions yet. Let's wait for the race and see.
Sounds like a plan. Good luck in qualifying and in the race.
Good luck to everyone. Thanks.
I think Andy Soucek has pretty much said or agreed with what you and I have been saying about keeping out of trouble, about preparing. And
look, if I had a pound for every racing driver who said just what Andy has said, I'd be a wealthy man. I could have probably a bigger collection of Porsche. But there the guys are doing a great job getting everything back into place. The tire bales are now behind those strips of, it's just a bale, rubber bale in front.
That's Chris Froggatt,
yeah,
with Jonathan
big old
Queen.
boy, yeah.
Second in the FIA GT Nations Cup last year with Chris Buncombe. So Chris's brother Alex has a Bentley drive, but Chris himself not behind the wheel, sadly, this weekend.
And I mean, they're standing around in their racewear. I mean, depending on the manufacturer and the thickness, some of them are thicker than others. And I'm talking about the underwear or the racewear, not the drivers.
The drivers, yes. Yeah. Well recovered. Yeah.
I mean, it's still 33 Celsius outside.
So 32 cars have set a time, and the others ideally would do one. But you know, all you want to do at this stage is get into Super Pole, don't you? You don't need to be a hero.
Absolutely.
You'll get the front of the grid tomorrow.
All you have to do, I mean, as was just mentioned there by Andy Soucek, is clearly get a lap time in that's sufficiently good to get you into the top 20 Super Pole. That will be the objective of certainly up to 40% of the field here. The remaining field will be focused on doing the best they can, and I mean they will be starting in the mid or the tail of the pack. So they will have to contend with whatever conditions nature throws at them. And the weather that's been discussed, Andy was discussing this potential heavy rain that's coming in. And in fact, they're sort of suggesting it's going to be extremely heavy rain in a very short period of time, something like 20 litres of rain, whatever that means. But it's going to be very, very wet. So most likely we'll see cars being a number of laps, maybe quite a number of laps under the safety car procedure.
So we might go early here. The car's starting to make their way down the pit lane. So are we almost good to go? I think we are actually now. The race director will give the message restart on short notice. The estimated restart has indeed been brought forward by 6 minutes. So we're going to be in business pretty soon.
Yeah, you've got to get the recovery vehicles, of course, back behind the barriers to safety. But everybody rushing now to get down to the second pit lane here at Spa-Francorchamps to be at the bottom. Effectively where they rejoin is parallel with Eau Rouge and over Radio. As this protracted pit lane exit, as is one of the two Nissans. Great to see these cars back. The Gen 2 Nissan, a big step forward in terms of technology and performance over the very faithful, the old faithful that was such a great race car for so many seasons.
Just to make the point again about Superpole, which runs tomorrow evening, it's the top 20 out of qualifying that will go through to that. So you could argue that qualifying is about not being slow rather than being fast, because you'll get the lion's share of the work done if you get into Superpole. But once, if you miss out, then your work is done before the race. You get a warm-up session, admittedly, but you don't have an extra qualifying period. Qualifying ends.
The warm-up session is helpful because it'll give you an indication as to what track conditions are going to be like. And while in warm-up you're not necessarily going to go out and try and simulate a qualifying lap, but it will give you that heads up, and then when you go out and do Superpole, you will have a fresh set of rubber, and that will give you that little bit of extra, but it'll be effectively a one-lap opportunity, and the first flying lap will be the lap you've got to get the best out of your tyre.
Right, we're back in business then for just over 8 minutes and 20 seconds, and here they come pouring up the hill. Cavalry charges, you do not, as one driver has done there, got stuck behind a rather tardy driver out of the pit lane. That's the Nissan. Is that Chio's Nissan? What it's trying to do is back off so it gets clear track space there, but all that does is concertina everybody up behind.
Typical motorway situation.
Yeah.
Some old codger, it doesn't get on with the programme. Get on, get on.
The one in the middle lane. Well, completely oblivious to what's going on around.
Any lane.
Yeah. Right, here they come up towards Lecomte. Track position vital.
And three quick cars in that bunch.
There's the gap. That's what Chio has managed to find himself. Or the Nissan has found itself. Yes, it's the car coming over the brow, heading the next wave we need to be focusing on.
Funny enough, you've got the two Mercedes running, again, nose to stern. The 88 and the 999. So a little bit of weaving to get this. I wouldn't imagine you'd need to weave that much, because ambient and track temperatures are sufficiently high. But maybe just a little bit of confident building, just get the feel for what the tyre is giving you back through your steering wheel, through the feel that you get through your body, through the seat of your pants, basically, through your feet. So three cars, the Porsche or the two Mercedes, cars that clearly are going to be looking to try and Earl Bamber is still the quickest overall, 2 minutes 20.047. The Aston Martin 462 has still not been seen in this group of cars. So whether they're hanging back or whether they're just in another clump of maybe 15 or so cars and totally, basically hamstrung by track position.
So the first Nissan out from KCMG was 35, which is the Katsumasa Chio car, and then you've got the second wave, which is being led by the sister car. That was the one that was going slowly. That was Alessandro Imperatori. So he is the one coming now up from campus, and the Coeur Paul Frere, who's got quite a bit of real estate ahead of him, and trying to maximise that while he can. But look at this, the lights are getting brighter, the natural light is fading. This is when Spa, when any 24-hour race, when any nighttime racing takes on a whole different feel.
So the Nissan into La Source, the big throaty twin turbocharged V6 buried right under the bulkhead. That was one of the major modifications that Nissan did when they introduced this car. Flashing the lights, somebody ahead of them runs the curb on the entry into Eau Rouge. Watch the exit. Again, this whole thing of radio, you might as well just ignore radio. It's become a straight line, not a corner.
Yeah. And you also see there, quick cars on a lap, others joining in from the pit lane. It was Kevin Estre, wasn't it, 2 or 3 years ago, that came diving out of the pit lane early in the race, clipped another car. Long safety car period within about the first 2 hours. Number 35 then, pressing on, Captain Masaccio, reminding himself what Spa is all about.
And that the 4 Mercedes behind the Black Vulcan. No, it's not. It's another. It's got the blue around the radiator, but it was the way it was reflecting off the lights from other cars. So down into the long downhill right-hander. Then this corner, still without a name, or have you got a name for it?
It's always known as Speaker's Corner.
Speaker's Corner.
Because from the old commentary box overlooking the Heritage pits, that was the only other part of the circuit you could see up in the distance. So the the Belgian commentators, the speakers, called it Speaker's Corner, but it's an unofficial name, certainly.
So Chio trying his best to thread his way through cars that are on their out laps. Some of those maybe not as quick as the car that is driven by Chio, the Nissan. Yeah. And waiting to see where the 2 Mercedes, the 999 and the 88, they've dropped back a little bit from this group, not wanting to get embroiled with what's taking place.
Backing up what Andy Soucek was saying about the tyres, nobody going purple and very few going green.
No, I'm not surprised. It was all done on their first lap until the red flag came out. But as Andy Soucek pointed to, it's about doing sufficient to get your car into the top 20 shootout.
Right, Chio on a mission, isn't he? Lights are flashing up the curb, down to the bus stop. He needs this lap because right now this car does not have a lap time for Q2. And look at all the traffic ahead as he comes up towards the timing line. Then now, where is this going to put him? It's a 220.0 to beat, and the lights still flash, and it is a 220.669, puts him 4th fastest. Good effort, that.
Considering that he probably lost maybe up to half a second with the traffic, you know, basically going one way or another, and he would have lost half a second, I would have thought, comfortably, and that would have put him, well, probably second quickest. An if and an and a but.
Indeed so. Right, how is the number 20 Porsche getting on here?
Same
behind the wheel,
scenario.
Ricardo Leeds. Yeah, traffic. Leeds makes the best of it. Where does he leap up to? He will go 5th fastest, Ricardo Leeds.
Again, probably the best part of half a second, because he doesn't know where the BMW is going to go. There's 2 cars ahead of the BMW. He's trying to get himself into position to get a good run. And Leeds, of course, is the quicker of the 3 cars. He has to wait. He's just got to be patient.
Now there's Leo Michinski, the Russian driver, who is on a 2nd flying lap within the Barwell Pro-Am car.
Dennis Olsen goes 2nd quickest.
For Porsche, absolutely. So it's a Porsche 1, 2, Aston 3, Porsche 4. That changes. Klaus Bachler's Porsche, the green, Monza winning dynamic motorsport car, up to 2nd.
Excellent. I'm delighted. But Mirko Bortolotti, is he going to be quickest of all in the 63 Lamborghini? He's had a good run. He's not been impeded coming over the last 2 corners. He goes quickest, 2:19.494, and that gives him over half a second of an advantage over Earl Bamber, and that's a good job done by Mirko Bortolotti. He'll be happy with that.
Excellent job, isn't it? That, as there you see 25 Audi back on track. This is Marcus Winkelhock. It missed pre-qualifying, didn't go out at all because they needed to change as a precaution the wiring loom. That meant get the engine out to get to the wiring loom, so it was a long job. Robin Frintz, in the meantime, number 1, is on a quick lap and should be an improver. Alessandro Pierguidi has just gone 15th. Fred Macavicchi's Porsche has just gone 5th. So it's Lamborghini and then 4 Porsches behind it.
Tristan Vautier into the top 10 in his 44 Mercedes-Benz. So Robin Frintz goes 8th quickest. Mirko Bortolotti remains. Fred Macavicchi in the Porsche 998 goes 5th.
Dries Van Toor to the top of the times. Dries Van Toor 2 minutes 19.2 now. A 5th of a second up on Mirko Bortolotti.
Excellent drive by Dries Van Toor. That's a 1/4 of a second quicker than Mirko Bortolotti achieved. So Dries Van Toor will be delighted. Delighted. The only person who would be probably any happier would be his brother Laurent,
whose car is 4th and has just pitted. Earl Bamber has brought it in so they can have extra time to do the driver change. We've got a lap time taken away from number 78 James Pull for, oh, you guessed, track limits.
I wonder why and I wonder where.
Doesn't tell us where.
No, it just says
abuse of track limits.
Just says abuse of track limits.
Yeah. Miguel Molina over the timing line and not a great lap.
No, 36th.
Yeah.
Well,
Mauro Engel goes 5th. Christopher Mies for Land in the Audi goes 11th. Miguel Molina improves 14th in the end. The time is late coming onto our screen. This is Jordan Pepper slowing right down to try and get clear track space at the chicane.
So Bentley have not really got anybody in the top 10 at the minute, as far as I can see. They need to get their cars into the top 10. They need to get them into the top 20. If they can get all 4 cars into the top 20, that will be a great result for Bentley.
So here come the Audis then, of which there are multitudinous across the different teams.
24 seconds remaining, so this is the last lap for probably the bulk of the field.
Yeah, that's right, and they're stuck in the traffic. He's Audi number 2. This is Dries Van Thor. He had done an absolute best in the first sector, but this lap is about to all unravel for him. Bale, don't stress the tyres. Bale, you're not going to go any quicker with that car stuck ahead, are you?
No, he's not, and you can see the frustration, flashing the lights, trying to get the Lamborghini to step sideways to let him continue on its way. It'll maybe be, he'll not even do a personal best. Dries Van Thor, all 4 wheels off the track as he exits out of Stavlo. Dries, give it up now, save the tyres. Yeah. You're not going to go any quicker. It's a frustration, I know, but that's the rub of the green when it comes to a racetrack with 73 or 72 cars all at one time. And as long as this circuit it isn't big enough for everybody to get a clear lap at any given time.
And that's where the calming influence of a Thierry Tassin or a Vincent Voss or a Pierre Giordone would come into effect, because they ought to be on the radio saying, look, abandon the time, come into the pit lane. Van Thor presses on, and the lap time we haven't yet had, but it's not going to be an improvement. He lost 2 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, sitting here in the commentary booth, I know it's easy to be a commentator and make these observations, but in that situation, with the time remaining, and he'll be going on at least a 3rd lap of a set of tyres that's probably had his best on the 2nd lap. What's the point?
There's Klaus Bachler, who was well placed, but he's dropped to 6th fastest. But Bachler has done an absolute best, as you see in the first sector. Purple is absolute best, so traffic allowing, this is looking good for the Dynamic Motorsport team.
And I still look at that car and think it's a turnkey Porsche out of the Porsche dealer in Italy. It looks so stock. It doesn't look the other Porsches that are in this event. It just looks so bog standard. Still think it would look better in Viper green than Lizard green. That's a personal choice.
Wonder why. Now, he's down in the middle sector, isn't he, Klaus Bachler? So it's unravelled a little bit. But is he going to carry on? Bale, if you're in the top 20 for Super Pole, mission achieved tonight. Don't stress the tyres, don't stress the cars, don't put yourself in jeopardy.
Don't put it in the tyre barrier.
Exactly. So, Dries Van Thor ahead of Mirko Bortolotti. Stein Scott-Horst has gone 3rd in 55, the Attempto Audi, 2:19.9. And indeed, Bachler does pit.
So the Aston comes across. I mean, it's just so competitive. I mean, Robin Friens, for example, 16th quickest. Maximilian Buch, 18th quickest. Marcus Winkelhock, 20th. Sven Muller, the Porsche, 19th. Con Ledegaard and the Aston. Tristan Vautier, 20th, 21st and 22nd respectively. I mean, and Jordan Pepper in the 107 Bentley, 25th. Well, that ain't going to get the job done.
So the cars head for the pit lane. Others still have to finish the slowing down lap, but they actually want to be back in as quickly as to give the team the necessary work, because we've got 5 minutes before the next session.
And the Ricardo Baptista, this is the Bentley 109. It ends up, well, I'm just looking at the timing and scoring. It was, I think, no, unfortunately, our timing and scoring pages have gone AWOL.
So Swiss timing having a quick reset. There you see 97, which is the repaired Aston Martin, the Oman Racing Team car.
So how much time? We've probably lost the best part of 20-25 minutes with the 2 red flag incidents so far this evening. We should almost be coming to the conclusion of Q4.
So
and we haven't yet. We're just coming to the end of Q2.
And 21:09 is going to be the time that we start at, but our clock has gone off the timing screen, so that's in about 4 minutes' time, roughly.
And then we've got an hour and a half of nighttime practice. So if they want to get back on schedule, they're actually going to absorb the time that was going to be downtime for the teams to turn cars around to go straight into nighttime practice.
Yeah, it was only going to be about 20 minutes anyway, but you're right. Now, night practice, if that's a red flag, because it's practice, not qualifying, the clock carries on ticking?
Oh.
I think so.
Next question.
Okay, right. Barwell getting ready for more cars. Down they come. So the field accelerates towards its pit box, and then we will be good to go. So there you've got the Valkenhorst team. This is the endurance pits going down the hill. Team's now being told to put the lights on, and there we have the field with still a number of cars to get a better lap time. Dries van Thor is the fastest then thus far from Mirko Bortolotti. That gap point 2:58. That's only the session best, not the combined that we can give you at the moment. We haven't got those pages, so I can't give you the aggregated, but only the individual sessions. Ready to go is number 19, the Grasser Lambo, that now will go to Lucas Ayrton Mauron. And the fast lane is open, so the cars are allowed down to get out there. Now you see why some teams bail early to do the driver change, because all this puts you in the back of the queue.
I mean, the 63, in my opinion, should have been in. There's the 88 leading the queue. I mean, they did the right thing. 88 currently. Where are they in the timing and scoring? I'm just looking to see where they... Oh, we've lost pictures again on timing and scoring.
So the Mirko Bortolotti Lamborghini is there, ready to go. So Bortolotti's time, 0.256 down on Dries van Thor. And the next driver change is going to put Christian Engelhardt into the car. Christian Engelhardt to take that car over.
The 88 Mercedes, I was looking for, it's 33rd.
I know, it's extraordinary,
that is nuts. I mean, that car, now, somebody's going to have to get their finger right. If that car's going to get into the top 20.
Again, it's such a lottery, this qualifying, not only because of the traffic, but because of the red flags. And then, of course, when we get to Superpole, it's 2 laps for the 20 cars that will go through. Right, let's head to the pit lane. Dries van Thor is currently the fastest. He can reflect on that with Ryan.
As the third session of qualifying starts behind us, Dries van Thor joining us fastest in that second session here on home turf. How good was that lap? How proud are you of what you put out there on track?
Yeah, a good start. I mean, it's still a long weekend to go. But yeah, car felt good. My second lap was a bit better, but I got stuck in traffic. So let's hope my teammates can improve that what I couldn't. But you know, like I said, it's a good start. So let's wait and see.
It's been remarkably hot so far in all the running that you've done. A lot cooler now, though. How different were conditions relative to what you had experienced before in practice and pre-qualifying?
Yeah, of course, it's quite a big difference. You know, the heat is quite tricky. Also for the tires, also for us. But yeah, I'm happy that it's a bit cooler now. And they say it's going to rain this weekend, so it's going to be a combination of both, having a dry setup and a wet setup. So it'll be interesting to see who will come out the best out of that.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks.
It's not that many years ago we stood here watching Formula Renault with Dries van Thor as a newcomer to the grid, and here he is, one of the GT stars.
Very much so, and he's really developed in the last couple of seasons. Interesting, he thought that he could have done a better time on his second flying lap, and he hopes that his teammates can go out and, well, with respect, Dries, you're the star of that car, and as much as I respect Alex Riberos and Frank Stippler, I wouldn't anticipate either of those two drivers improving on the time that Dries van Thor established just recently.
No, I think Dries is the faster, but Frank Stippler as the safe pair of hands, stick him into the car. You remember when he won it 4 or 5 years ago? He did triple stint after triple stint. I mean, he was just stunning in that car. I think he had to virtually unfold him. He'd been in it for so long. When it got to the end of the race, he was absolutely exhausted, but it was a hero's drive.
Absolutely. But if you're talking about out-and-out pace, the driver who's got out-and-out pace in the number 2 Audi is Dries van Thor.
Absolutely.
There's the 88. Mercedes, that car down in 33rd position from Q2, because it didn't run in Q1. It's a 3-driver car, it's a full pro car. So looking at the Barwell Lamborghini making its way out, there's the 63 still waiting, hasn't moved. So they're going to go out late and try and do that one-lap wonder once again.
And of course the cars are getting lighter now. The temperature is slightly cooler. 998 has just lost its Q2 lap time, so that's the car of Fred Makovici.
Freddie, what have you been doing?
Steward's decision 28. I shall research in a moment, because we're not told what the crime is, but it does get a steward's bulletin number. So let's see what that's all about.
On the 5 Audi, Phoenix Racing, Louis Schramm, Finlay Hutchinson and Ivan Pereiras just wandering around the racetrack trying to get some temperature into the tyre as the 88 comes up. It's got all the racetrack and time to place the car wherever they want to do so. And that very different line that you take when you're about to start a flying lap to get maximum drive off the corner. You take a slightly different line when you're on the flying lap, but that's the quickest way to start the flying lap. So up into the source, don't brake too late, just get the car in, get on the throttle early. So Fabian Schiller, who's been impressive all year, certainly one of the drivers I've found very interesting, young German, and now the 3rd driver in this 88 partnership.
So Schiller, ever improving. Been driving Audis as well as Mercedes in different events this year. Rides the curb, accelerates up the hill, and now we'll start to see what times we're going to get out of all of this.
Just watching Schiller coming through Eau Rouge, you can see, I could see the degree of confidence he has in the car, the way he was able to lean on the rear of the car. That for me is the way a good racing car should handle. If you've got confidence to put the load into the rear, and look, fastest overall first sector, mind you, he's pretty much the first car on the full flying lap, but he's now got traffic and he goes way off track at the exit of Blancpain. And this is going to be a frustration. Tries to dive down the inside, does so, compromises himself in the process because he had to use bits of the racetrack he would not normally choose to use. And again, the BMW just ahead of him, that's going to be another issue to find a way around without losing your momentum.
So Fabian Schiller then, who was the Silver Cup champion 2 years ago in the, what was then Blancpain Sprint Series, comes down through Pouen, looking good, looking strong. Racing in America this year in the IMSA Sports Car Series predominantly. And of course, because he's managed to find track space early on in the lap, the purple sector absolute best. That said, he's going to be under attack, isn't he? Because Timo Bernhardt's now done an absolute best in the number 117 Porsche.
So Schiller's got to find a way around the Lamborghini before he gets into the bottom of the circuit. And look at the speed of the Lamborghini. Look, it's trying to find a way around the outside of the Audi, I beg your pardon. That's the 5 Audi. Yeah. So that is running strongly.
That's Kim Louis Schramm, who's having a look up the inside, ex-single-seater racer, Kim Louis Schramm.
And he's got momentum.
Yeah, absolutely right. The German driver for the Phoenix team comes up to have a little go at Fabian Schiller. Schramm 2 personal bests, and he's looking quicker over the overall lap time. So here they come, down to the braking zone for the bus stop. Kim Louis Schramm looking good.
And Schiller's bailed out of it. He's bailed and let the Audi go through. So he's going to have to go another time. And hopefully he's got enough left in the tyre to give him that opportunity. But he's still got many slower cars directly ahead of him. He's got to find his way around. Fastest last sector for Kim Louis Schramm in the Audi, 122.430.
Timo Bernhardt goes even quicker though, and also Patrick Pilet has done a personal and an absolute best in number 998, and he goes quickest. Patrick Pilet 2:19.982. Pilet to the top of the times.
Yeah, and that probably is going to put that car certainly into the top 20 very comfortably. Christensen, it's the Ferrari 72, it's gone second quickest on a 2:20.351. Almost, as you say, a time, another time is eclipsing.
And you're riding with Stephen Kane in Bentley 107. Stephen down towards the bus stop. At this section, he's not done too badly for cars around him, so it's a pretty clear lap that he's about to notch off. Let's see where the time puts him. Heads over the timing beam now, and it's 8th fastest, 2:21.584.
And Lucas Adonis in the 110 Bentley, likewise in 9th place. So, I mean, literally, you can hardly keep up with it. Timo Bernhardt up to 8th place. Further changes, Nico Müller in the number 1 Audi, 2nd, Alischen in the Ferrari, 3rd. 1:29 Feller. Now that's a time that's probably caught a few of us aside.
How's the Landau?
Yeah, Malta passed by Land Motorsport, Audi, Christopher Mies, and Jamie Green is the 3rd driver in that car. And that's a quick car as well.
It is. Timo Bernhardt then, another absolute best within the first sector. Jelmer Berman has gone fastest within Q3 on a 2:19.231.
That's a strong run from Jelmer Berman in a car we know is a quick car, whether it's in sprint or endurance.
And Andrew Watson's just gone 3rd in the Garage 59 Aston, 2:20.012.
Excellent.
In Q3.
Excellent. Good job from Andrew Watson.
There's Riberas heading through the bus stop. We've got, as I say, Timo Bernhardt looking good. Absolute best in sector 1. 8 minutes to go. This is normally the bogey time, isn't it?
Well, it's getting down to 8 minutes remaining, so there is time if you decide to bail into La Source, but no way to pass, and the Mercedes runs way off the racetrack coming through Bonneville.
Well, that's going to be a track
Blancpain, not Bernable. Bernable doesn't exist these days. Blancpain. Bernable, of course, a great corner here at Spa-Francorchamps. When you came up to the end of the straight, instead of turning right as we do now, you had Les Combes, then Bernable was further down, a dropping right-hand corner. Most famous for Jackie Stewart having a shunt there. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Third quickest. No, Nick Foster's gone third.
Changes and changes and changes. Yeah. Foster running behind, you're right. And Andrea Caldarelli has just gone up to second, 2:19.632. Another of the attractive liveries in the event.
Look how dusty and dirty it is down at the flip-flap.
That's the Mercedes of Scuderia Villova Corsa, and that's now got Stefano Monaco behind the wheel, that Mercedes. Now there is 999, which is Lucas Auer. That's yet to do a lap time. Engelhardt's yet to do a lap time. Lewis Williamson has yet to do a lap time. There's number 4. That's Jelmer Burman, who is the top of the times at the moment. Jelmer Burman for the Mercedes AMG team Black Falcon.
Yeah, and the car has got a lot more graphic on it than we've seen throughout the season. Still got the base blue, that lovely colour. You see it around the radiator grille, but a lot more commercial support on this car. And always a competitive driver lineup. Wait to see where this car is going to end up. Number 4. And where are they? I can't even see where they are. And the timing of scoring as it comes. Jelmer Burman comes across, start-finish line.
Still fastest by 10.
Indeed.
But Lucas Auer is up to second now, number 999. So it's Black Falcon from Gruppa M. Andrea Caldarelli down to third. Nico Müller is up to fourth. All of these times I'm giving you the order is Q3, not the aggregated. Nick Foster 5th, Timo Bernhardt 6th, but on a mission. Lewis Williamson for Straka Mercedes 7th, 8th Ollie Jarvis, 9th Andrew Watson, and down to 10th is Patrick Pilet.
I was going to say, where are all the Porsches? Well, they're not on the top 6, that's for sure. Timo Bernhardt again, and running wide, coming off. Again, down near Stavelo. So Timo Bernhardt is going to find himself. And the Audi runs way, way wide, kicks up the dust just on the exit of the corner. That's the 5 Audi. So that was a time that would have been certainly compromised by the exit out of Stavelo.
Right, now what can Bernhardt do? He's down in the middle sector. Can he make it up in the last? He's got traffic, of course, ahead of him. And right now, Jelmer Burman topping the times by 1/10 of a second. Lucas Auer was up in 1 and down in sector 2. And that's the case for many of them. Lewis Williamson is still pushing hard as well, but it really is a lottery where you catch slower cars and whether or not you catch a pro who's going to look in his mirrors.
He's done not too badly. He hasn't really lost any time threading his way through the traffic. He was given a little bit of cooperation, so where this will place the 117, currently 7th quickest, and comes across the line at 2 minutes 20.282. So it doesn't, no, he did it 19.8, so no improvement from Timo Bernhardt, traffic unquestionably. Andrea Caldarelli currently is the quickest of the Lamborghinis in 3rd place. And this is a car that, as I thought, looked stellar pretty much all through the year. A little bit late in the brakes, compromises himself in the flick back to the left, so maybe pushing very hard as he now comes to the exit of Les Combes. Runs the curve, that's fine, but just that little bit on the entry of the car. He came in early, he ran a little bit too wide in the middle part, and time will have been lost for the Italian in the Lamborghini, the car that has been, to me, maybe the most impressive in terms of how it has appeared, whether it's in endurance, whether it's in sprint. They're on board with Andrea Caldarelli. All look, whoa, ride him, cowboy. And that's in Pujol, so maybe the composure of the car, which is normally absolutely stellar, isn't quite as nice as Andrea Caldarelli might be looking for. Improvement from Frank Pereira in the sister car to this car, the 519. He's up into 6th place. Remember, Andrea Caldarelli still running 3rd from a previous lap, but this lap, I suspect, is not going to see an improvement on a 2:19.6. 4 minutes of the session to go. Further down the field, Rende van der Zender in the Honda. It's in 13th place. That's the Pro Honda rather than the Silver Cup Honda, which is the Bob Neville run car. And just looking to see all the way down, Matt Perry, 62 Aston Martin, was 36th. He's now gone to 37th. Tony Villander in the Ferrari has eclipsed him. 2 cars at 36th and 37th. Not right at all.
And people are losing lap times as well, which shuffles the order in another way. So you're shuffling because of good times. Then if you lose a lap time, it changes again. Frank Pereira, I think John had given you a 2:19.8 to be an improver. That's Nick Foster going over the line, the Australian driver. Carrera Cup Australia champion, Blancpain GT Series Asia front runner. Hub Auto Corsa, one of the top Asian teams, now coming into the Spa 24 Hours 70th fastest is another Belgian motorsport hero, Marc Duet, in number 50, the Herbie liveried Porsche. Marc Duet, racer, rally driver, inveterate enthusiast, driving standards advisor for the Spa 24 and other championships. Great bloke, and he's 70th in the times. There's Pirelli.
So 98, the Porsche coming in here, 98 a bit, no, that's the 98 Porsche. So Pirelli is 12th, but that's the 998 Porsche, so slight confusion. Romain Dumas, so it comes across the line, and he's 26th again, totally out of place. And that doesn't confirm with what we've got on timing and scoring either.
So through he goes.
Christian Engelhardt, 23rd. Mirko Bortolotti was blinding in his session.
Yeah, absolutely right. There is Jelmer Berman's car, so that's in the pit lane, and it will give way for the last session to Luca Stolz. Interesting that they've kept Luca for the last one rather than Mauro Engel, but Stolz is becoming a bit of a Mercedes hero, isn't he?
Well, I think Mauro Engel and Stolz have been, again, one of those two partnerships that really have clicked. I mean, they're both quite tall, which helps when it comes to doing driver changes, but both complement each other behind the wheel.
So there with another of these fantastic liveries that Black Falcon has, ready for Q4, because the flag is not that far away. There's no point going out now because you're not going to get a lap time in.
No, do your driver change, do whatever else you might want to do, prepare the car for the final qualifying run, and just make sure, hope, pray, or whatever it is that you'd like to do, that you get that opportunity for one clean, clear lap at the point when your tire's at the peak of its performance. And again, looking slightly concerned, Thierry Tassin.
I keep expecting him to burst into song with his cane and leap off the pit wall like Fred Astaire. He's got that dapper look.
The touch of Noel Coward.
Yes, yes, yes.
Mad dogs.
And English runners.
Yeah.
Right, we are imminent for the flag. Look, 1 more minute to go. Berman, Auer are in the pit lane. Number 999, Lucas Auer up to second then. Cometh the Auer, John.
Well, I mean, all you need now is Gerhardt to walk up into the pit lane and entertain us as well.
Well, indeed.
Uncle Gerhard Berger, that is.
That's right. Lucas's nephew. Caldarelli pits, Nico Müller pits, and here the Valkenhorst BMW, which is 34, comes into the chicane. So this is the Mikkel Jensen, Christian Cronje's Nick Katzberg car, and it's Christian Cronje's behind the wheel of it at the moment.
Doesn't that look bog standard out of the box? I'm amazed. I look at the car and think, I don't know what it is about the Rover racing cars. They look just so different. Maybe just nothing more than the graphics and the paint.
Yeah. It does make a difference, you're right, but it does look pretty standard. And that Monza win, just great.
Oh, it was outstanding. I mean, it was a race that was dictated by principally weather conditions. People trying to get away, running a wet tyre on a drying track. Wasn't quite ideal for a set of slicks. And just the tyre couldn't sustain the temperature that was being developed, and this team came through and won the race.
And they're still pushing on is Bentley 110. So there is a chance with the track getting quieter that you can improve. 110 is Lucas Ordóñez in the Bentley. Again, for many, many seasons, of course, he was a part of that Nissan PlayStation GT Academy. He's driven for Valkenhorst, in fact, in BMWs also this year in VLN and the Nürburgring 24. This is something different. He's raced the car in America, though, and he comes now through Les Combes.
Well, interesting that Bentley have picked up two of the ex-Nissan Bob Neville Racing drivers, and certainly Alex Buncombe, the one that has always been the sort of the head of the group of drivers, but Lucas Ordóñez, having come through the PlayStation, almost the dream.
Yeah.
To become a very, very capable, effective, and he's a lovely guy.
He was the first winner.
He was, yeah.
And although perhaps Jan Mardenborough got a huge amount of media exposure, Lucas Ordóñez has matured and developed into a really fine GT racer. Yeah,
well, Jan Mardenborough has gone down the single-seater route, particularly in Japan, pursuing his dream to obviously reach the higher echelons of single-seater racing.
Wide there out of the piff-paff. Whoops, that's Ordóñez, and he's working hard. Bouncing up the curb is Christian Engelhardt behind him. So you've got two gun drivers here, both trying to wring everything out on their last lap of the session. But the flag is out. Even if they finish this lap, they're going to have to do another slow in-lap. And Ordóñez is down and down and down in the sectors. What about Engelhardt, number 63? He is down and down and down in the sectors. So there's no point going to the line, despite all this energy.
I mean, unless he knows something on his timing and scoring that we're not seeing in our timing and scoring, I suspect that the smart, a bit of a lock-up for Adonyeth coming into the, and there he just runs wide, lets it all go. Well, don't be doing that, Luca. That's not a smart thing to do. You should have made it around the chicane. You could have done so. Luckily, it doesn't have any bearing in terms of his lap time. But Engelhardt did the smart thing and bailed into the pits. That all was just a function of just locking up, coming up into the chicane and being out of track position. And the consequence is he's now got to spend another 2.5 or more minutes driving around on the set of tyres, of which one of the fronts or both fronts may have got a lovely flat spot.
Yeah. And there's 43 Mercedes, the rebuilt or spare, if you like, Straka car. And David Fuminelli has just gone 48th in Q3 in that Mercedes.
I think it was a rolling chassis that that Straka Racing put together.
Okay, 44, the Pro Cup car is in. That's a long way down as well, isn't it? I've lost it. 9th, Lewis Williamson, apologies. 9th fastest in Q3. So that car goes through its service, and Q4 is about 4 minutes away from starting, so the officials pushing on.
Yeah, well, we want to get into the nighttime running because we're now coming up to 9:25, almost 9:30, and this nighttime session was due to start at 9:40.
And this is how we look at the moment then, with the Q3 isolated times. Jelmer Berman doing a 2:19.231 to go quicker than Lucas Auer. Andrea Caldarelli third ahead of Nico Muller, Nick Foster, and then Franck Pereira 6th. 7th fastest now Alex Riberas, 8th quickest Timo Bernhardt, 9th Lewis Williamson, and 10th Ollie Jarvis. Now, in terms of who is on the top of the times on the combined, that's the number 2 Audi. Vantor, Ivan Riberas and Frank Stippler, the drivers. Second on the aggregate is Engel, Berman, Stolz, Mercedes, and third Bortolotti, Engelhardt, and then Rolf Ineichen. But of course that could all shuffle again once we get them out for Q4. And remember, it's the top 20 on that combined average that will go into Superpole. 2 laps for Superpole.
Yeah, and I mean, as Dries van Thor was saying, I'm relying on my 2 teammates to, get on with the program and keep that time I established in Q2 as the time that will actually be the time that will give us the fastest overall of these 4 qualifying segments, all of which is wonderful. But if you get into Superpole or the shootout tomorrow evening, you could end up being 15th in the grid.
Absolutely right. So you can gain, you can lose.
It's a short-lived glory.
But it's good for the PR teams overnight, isn't it? Right, that's the rest of how Q3 looks, with some big names way down. I mean, look at that. Martin Tomczyk and Augusto Farfus only 38.
Yeah, but look at Dennis Olsen, 33rd. Yeah. And I mean, I think a great job by the Honda.
Yeah.
Ralph Sanchez, they're 31st. I mean, that's a Silver Cup car, and that's a good effort.
So the next part of qualifying only about 3 or 4 minutes away now before we get the track busy once again. And we can, just in the meantime, head back to the pit lane as well, because drivers getting out of the cars and able to have a word with Ryan.
Jelmer Berman out of his race car, very fast in that session, but with 72 cars out on track at once, how challenging is it to find the kind of space on track that you need to run a fast lap like that one?
Yeah, it's very difficult. Obviously, so many cars on a fairly short track, and it's all about getting a clear lap. If you're in the traffic, then especially with these cars, they have so much aero now, that clear air is very important. So we did well to find a nice gap, had a nice lap, and the car just performed absolutely great. Team Black Falcon did a great job in preparing the car, and so did AMG. So yeah, it's looking good so far. Obviously, still one more important session to be done, get over with. But I'm sure Luca will do a great job as well. And then obviously the shootout tomorrow, and after that a very long race.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Well, Jelmer Berman summed it up precisely and very accurately. He knows what his team need to do, and they found that magic clear lap, and they had it at a time. As we look at the number 50, the VW Beetle, the Herbie, which is a Porsche GT3 RS in effect. It's beginning to grow on me.
Yeah. I know what you mean. It is different, isn't it, in its appearance? So that's the Entrant 1969 Tribute, the way that car is badged.
Well, you know, I've got a 1970 VW Beetle. I could have dragged it along. Wouldn't be quite as quick, no doubt. One of the stories, I'd go back just briefly, at Nürburgring, first time I went to Nürburgring, I had a VW Beetle. Just to give you an idea of the elevation on that particular racetrack, I had to go down to second gear to climb some of the hills.
Really?
It was so steep. Mind you, all about 40 horsepower on a good day with a tailwind.
So that car, it was a Porsche win in 1969, that's why it's being celebrated. So we are in business, and there is 43 ready to go for this final 20 minutes of qualifying.
In theory, teams would have put their best drivers in, or what they would consider their quickest drivers in, for this session, because in theory, track conditions are going to be at their best. The air is getting slightly cooler, so therefore should be slightly more dense, and therefore probably a little bit of a better charge in the combustion chamber. So it's interesting to see how teams, have, you know, particularly the number 2 Audi, putting Dries van Voren to go out and set that fastest time, which has led to that car still having the provisional pole or provisional top position.
Yeah.
I don't want to call it pole because it isn't pole, because we've got a shootout for pole position tomorrow evening.
Now there's number 20 hustling on, Kevin Estrup, getting his elbows out. Kevin, revving Kevin, he's on a mission here, isn't he?
He loves it, he loves it. He's a great racer too.
Yeah, he is.
And that's something that I think that if you love motorsport, one of the things above all that people appreciate is drivers that are racers, not just racing drivers. There's a difference, and racers always come top of my pile.
So here, out of the Campus Cours Paul Frere section pour the Porsches, and at the head of the queue is Matthias Besch for the Modena Motorsports Squad. He's done, of course, an absolute best within Sector 1. Got Nick Tandy within the pack for this in number 998 Porsche, Le Mans winner, Porsche factory star. What can he do? And Frank Stippler in number 2 Audi, which is currently on aggregate the fastest in qualifying.
So Nick Tandy just hanging back a little bit, so he doesn't trip over the, not the sister Porsche, but the, in effect, they're all part of the Porsche family.
So who is going to offer up the first flying lap time? They're on to a flying lap now. Sectors become interesting, but that shows you, look, we're down to 12 minutes already.
Goes in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, it does.
So that's the benefit of being out early, is that you give yourself a little bit more flexibility. You can roll the dice and say we're going to go for a one-lap wonder lap, but you have to be very, very confident you're going to find that clear one lap to do your wonder lap in.
So with the light fading and the temperature down by a gnat's whatnot, Adam Christodoulou goes through. Matthias Besch doing the absolute best within the first sector, and it is still the number 2 Audi, I should say, that has that best on combined times. More dirt kicked up. So you've got Dirk Werner hustling on, no question about that. And now we're almost getting into what the drivers will face in that night practice session, aren't they? So
yeah, I think he got a degree of cooperation from the Honda to let him get through, so he's managed to pick up pace, keep some of the momentum that would have always been under threat of losing when you come up behind a car that you're not entirely sure if they're going to be cooperative or not. So coming down into Pouhon, there is the Honda, very planted as it goes through that long, long double left-hand corner.
So Dirk Werner hustles on. Now Matthias Besch, personal and absolute best. And now the absolute best Sector 1, Matteo Drudi, the Italian driver for Attempto with the Audi, ex-single-seater racer. He looking good in the first sector on this lap.
So waiting really for this group of cars to see who comes out on top in terms of single lap pace. Dirk Werner obviously green, personal best, because this is his first flying lap. So 2:18, I think, is the potential quickest lap. 2:18.1 or 2 it is. But that's again, they're just, I mean, what can you do? I mean, the best thing is not to get aggravated by it or lose your temper, because these guys are all out doing their job. Goes second quickest. Lawrence Van Thor was quickest. Now Dirk Werner has eclipsed that in a 2:20.078. Looking to see Lukas Stolz quickest in Sector 2 in terms of times.
Yeah, Stolz heading up to the line. So Dirk Werner quickest in the session, but it's the number 117, Bamber, Bernhardt, Van Thor, Porsche that's quickest on combined.
Kevin Estre now, and also the second Porsche. Nick Tandy, so 3 Porsches almost consecutively go quicker, quicker, quicker. And Nick Tandy in a 2:19.5 is the quickest currently.
Both in the session and on aggregate.
Yeah, Jamie Green is 6th quickest. Kelvin van der Linde 5th, so Sister Audis. Maxime Martin, the Aston, Dirk Werner. I mean, it's just Lukas Stolz got the quickest overall.
He has, and that puts him back to the top of the times on aggregate. So it's Stolz, Tandy, then Mathieu Jaminet 3rd in the session. Up to 4th on aggregate has just gone Mathieu Drudy, looking really good. You're riding with Marco Mappelli in the Lamborghini and going down now towards the Pif Paf.
Well, looking to see where the 63 Lamborghini is and all that. That's currently in 26th position outside of the top 20. That would be a shock if it didn't make it into the top 20. That's the 563 Aston Martin Lamborghini. Very quick car. So wait and see what happens when they conclude their laps.
So there is Mappelli. So in the session, it's Stolz, Tandy, Jaminet, Kevin Estre up to 4th.
Watch Maxime Martin in the 62 Aston Martin, fastest overall Sector 1.
Mathieu Drudy goes quicker again in Sector 1, and Lukas Stolz still with the best lap time. He's changing almost every car. Daniel Serra has just gone 4th. Patrick Kujala has just gone 4th.
So Mappelli, what's he going to do? Right up the rear of the Mercedes coming through the final turns. So Mappelli will have lost a little bit of momentum. So what will that 563 Lamborghini record in terms of lap? It goes 5th quickest, and that puts it 4th overall in the combined. So they'll be happy with that.
Ah, definitely, because it gets them into the Superpole contest. So Lind, Caldarelli and Mappelli, we're not really focused on Dennis Lind early on in his session, but the car's up there now.
And the 55 Drudy as well, again fastest sector 1. So good run indeed.
Absolute best Sector 1 again. Mathieu Drudy, more dust is kicked up. This is on board 72. And
Zavadi Rigon.
It is. In the Ferrari, we've had a lap time cancelled from number 91, that being the Herbert Motorsport Porsche, Alfred Renauer at the wheel of it.
So everybody's gone out and kind of established the best they can do. We're still seeing personal bests all through the top 20, the top 35 actually. But it's Drudy who is the car that currently 18th overall in this session and could find himself into the top 6 comfortably. I would have thought if he competes the snap cleanly.
Yeah, the car's 11th on aggregate, so it gets into Superpole. Still Stolz quicker than Tandy by 49 thousandths. And then Tandy to Giacomo Altue's Lamborghini is 47 thousandths. Altuve last year's International GT Open champion and Lamborghini Super Trofeo champion and Lamborghini Super Trofeo World Final winner. Drudy's second.
Absolutely, that's very impressive.
And where does that put them on aggregate? Fifth.
Second. No, beg your pardon, that's fifth.
Fifth. Yeah, so Drudy 5th on the aggregate. That gets him into Superpole. That's the mission.
That's the job done. That's all he had to do. He can come back in, take the gloves off, and sit back with, what, 6.5 minutes to go?
So good lap by Drudy. Absolute best, personal best, but he lost down in the last sector, so it could have been even quicker. This is Stippler's view. He's got the Tom Onslow Cole Mercedes ahead of him, as Stippler guns it up towards the timing line now. Where's that going to put him that lap? Second fastest it puts him.
Well, Stippler's still 10th.
Yeah, second on aggregate.
And 10th, yes, an aggregate, yeah. The 10th in this session. So they're consolidating, doing all that Dries van Thor asked of them to do. Get the car into the top 20. So no purples whatsoever in the top 35. So it's a Mercedes, an Audi, a Mercedes, a Ferrari, a Porsche, a Lamborghini, an Audi, a Porsche, an Audi, and a Porsche running at the top 10.
The Superpole, it's not looking mega for Bentley, is it? 28, 29, you find them?
Yeah, 26th, 107 is 26th.
Yeah.
No, it's not. They're not looking stellar. They're not
20th. Number 107 has just improved. Jules Gounon improving. 20th on aggregate, 17th in the session. So they're into Superpole at least with one car, Bentley.
You know, I don't know whether teams are getting so fixated about getting into the top 20 or not, because at the end of the day, there are so many elements that are going to come into play over the 24 hours. And if this weather pattern that we were talking about is one of those features, You could start at the back. You could do a Jackie Ickx in 1969 at Le Mans, where he refused to run across and jump into this Ford GT. He walked across. Always very idiosyncratic.
Came through to win the race by a tiny margin. Yeah,
one of the smallest margins ever.
Kelvin van der Linde up to second fastest in the session, 2:19.3. And where does that move the car to in terms of Super Pole? It's 18th.
He needed it.
Yeah, and Maxi Goetz goes quickest, 2:19.245. Number 999 Mercedes, that was its emergency lap, and Maxi Goetz now third on aggregate. Gary Paffett, 7th in the session, 8th on aggregate.
And in a Ferrari?
Mercedes.
Mercedes?
Yeah.
I thought he was I read somewhere, I thought he was in a Ferrari. It must have been.
Stracker, 44 Mercedes.
Okay, good. Well, normally that's his home. So where is Raffaele Marcello? 88. Still waiting to see a recording time. Currently 28th in this session. And where are they overall? They're 26th overall in combined. So this needs to be a big lap from the young Italian to ensure that they're going to get into that top 20 shootout. They will want to be. They'll not want to be languishing in 21st or lower. So it comes across like 26th. Wow, that's a disappointment. 3.5 minutes, just under 4 minutes remaining. So he's going to have to go again.
And he's only 26th on aggregate, so he's not in Super Pole.
No, that's what I'm saying. He's going to have to go again.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be an interesting order, this. 3 3/4 minutes. Right, John, talk us round Spa. This is an important lap for Lello Marciello.
Well, he took a lot of curb at the first part of Eau Rouge. A lot of curb coming over Radio. So he's already shortened the circuit by about half a mile by taking those shortcuts over the curves. But it seems that some drivers are getting penalised for track limit abuse. I don't know whether that will qualify for that particular observation or not. It would be very frustrating and very disappointing for the ACA ASP if they're 88. Again, probably overran coming into the second part of Lake Coombe. A lot of cloud, a lot of dust coming down the hill. You can barely see even through the lights, and you see the sparks coming off the titanium skid blocks under braking. So Raffaele, sometimes he goes into overdrive when he needs to deliver a time. Again, now look how far off the racetrack he is, coming through Speaker's Corner, and that's 4 wheels well and truly off the racetrack. This lap, he's probably had more wheels off the racetrack than anybody I've seen in a single flying lap. Comes to the exit of Pujol. Who put the lights out? Why is it so dark? Well, it's just because the sun's behind the camera. And all of a sudden, the character of the racetrack has completely changed.
Absolutely right.
Look again how far wide he is. So Raffaele is leaving nothing on the table at all.
Marciello,
again,
way up the curve.
I mean, every corner he's been off the racetrack.
So here he comes, up towards the Cours Paul Frere. Now, in terms of sectors, how is this lap looking? Not great
good.
in
No,
one,
it's
not great in two.
He's been off every corner, so far off the exit of the corner, he's costing himself more time than he thinks he's gaining.
There is time for one more lap in the session, whether the tyres are willing.
I don't think he's got anything left. I think that he's seen the best of the tyre. So he's going to come across the line with, what, 50 seconds or so of the session remaining. Or it'll be over a minute, so he will do another lap. I would imagine that he's seen the best of the Pirelli rubber that he put on the car at the point when he went out to do his qualifying run. So that's disappointment for the 88, not to get into the top 20.
Absolutely right. So he's 29th in the session.
But, David, actually, honestly, will it really matter?
Wait,
personally, I don't think it will. I mean, if he was starting 63rd or something, then I think, well, that's slightly different because it'll take you an hour to get all the way through the field. But the biggest danger for starting in 26th place is you're with the quick group of cars, but there's going to be a lot of them in front of you, alongside you and behind. So there are a lot of hidden dangers, but Raffaele and the team of drivers they'll find a way around it.
Watching Kevin Estre here, and I hold my hands up to being a Kevin Estre fan, both as a person and as a driver. Always spectacular. Had he spelled with McLaren, but he's always really been a Porsche guy at heart. He won Super Cup, Carrera Cup Germany, and of course now World Endurance World Champion out of the GTE Pro category. So it's great to have Kevin Estre back in Blancpain for this weekend and the Intercontinental GT Challenge. It's a very strong lineup of drivers in that car. Where is Estre in the times, though? He's only 17th. Does that get them into Super Pole? Just. They're on the cusp here. They're 20th, so he's vulnerable. Here comes Estre up towards the timing line. Is he going to be able to go quicker? He was up in Sector 1, down in Sector 2, and 20th he remains on aggregate.
So he will be, well, again, crossing everything to hope that he gets through. The 107, Stephen Kane, I'm assuming it is, behind the wheel.
That'll be Gounon now, won't it?
Is it Gounon? Okay, it is Jules Gounon, who is always impressive. I always enjoy watching Jules Gounon when he's behind the wheel. But again, traffic directly ahead of him is going to impede any further progress. Checkered flag is out, so they can continue and finish this lap, but losing time all the way around. And I almost imagine that Jules Gounon has decided, well, I'm not making any further progress, and I'm going to call it a day.
And night practice, which is our next coverage of the evening, will begin at 10:05 local time. So the teams are being given that 20-minute break to do whatever they need to do for the night time.
Well, nobody thinks of the commentators, do they?
Put kettle on. So we'll be back with night practice just before 10:05. But for now, the teams finish this last flying lap, head to the pit lane. So on average, the combined times now, which are the important ones, it's number 4 Black Falcon Mercedes plus number 2 WRT Audi and the 999 Gruppa M Mercedes that go into Superpole. So does the 227 Hub Auto Corsa Ferrari, 998 Porsche of Rover, 563 FFF Racing Team Lamborghini, 55 Attempto Audi, 44 Strachan Mercedes, 117 Porsche of the Bernhardt team, number 1 WRT Audi, 54 Dynamic Porsche, 72 Ferrari, number 129 Audi, that's the Land car, 76 Aston Martin, number 35 Nissan, 99 the Dennis Olsen Matt Campbell Dirk Werner Porsche. Also in gets the Garage 59 Aston of Ledegar, Watson and Johnny Adam. 98 Porsche gets in, 62 Aston, and number 20, which is the Estra Leitz Christensen Porsche, in as well. Superpole is always interesting, and it's a nice mix of 20 cars there, with quite a lot of Porsche influence.
Well, that was a comment that was made 2 weekends ago at Zandvoort. Looking forward to this event, talking to some of the teams and competitors. They thought that Porsche, having done a very good job a couple of weeks ago, could be seriously a team that could end up, and if you've got a strong lineup of drivers that they have, and they can run in that very metronomic form that Porsche tend to do. There's a slow car coming up. Is that a problem? The right front.
You might be right there. It looks low, doesn't it?
It looks very low on the right front. Is it damage, or is it just simply a tyre?
That's damage, I think. Is that the 444 Ferrari?
It is.
So that's the Scholz, no, 14, forgive me. That's the Scuderia Praha entry back into the championship. So that means Matteo Malucelli has had a moment somewhere.
It's just it's hard to tell if he's got a right front problem. He's coming in certainly much more slowly than one would anticipate.
So that car down the pit lane, and let's hear then from Lukas Stoltz from the number 4 Mercedes. He's with Ryan.
Lukas Stoltz set the lap that moved Black Falcon to P1 here in qualifying. Being fastest tonight, that's a good thing, but you got to be fastest in Superpole. Can this car go any faster?
Well, the cool temperature suits us, so yeah, we see tomorrow. So it's going to be not a hot day tomorrow, and I don't know, I think Mauro will do the lap, but we don't know yet. And yeah, we definitely want to be on P1 to start the race from the pole. But yeah, we did a really cool qualifying. All of us did a really decent lap. Jelmer was really impressive in the second qualifying, which, yeah, made it a bit of a mind game for my qualifying, because it was all about to not fuck it up, let's say. But yeah, good result for us, and the team is happy, the car is running well, and I hope we are prepared for tomorrow.
Apologies for the language. Quickly though, you said it was a mind game. How did you play that out in your head? What were you going through behind the wheel?
I have to say the team set me out in quite a nice spot, so I just had to manage the gap. Maxime Matar was in front of me, and he was pushing as well, so I had a quite clear lap. And yeah, then it was enough to do provisional pole.
Good luck in Superpole.
Thanks.
Driver's not yet nominated, so it's going to be interesting to see who the teams field, but Lukas Stoltz certainly must be a potential candidate for that, having just gone 3rd in that session. So he didn't do the overall best lap, but he was his efforts on the average got the car up to the top of those combined times. So it means that here is your average order, and the Engel, Burman, Stoltz, Black Falcon Mercedes tops Dries Vanthoor, Alex Riberas and Frank Stippler. Then Maxi Boot, Lucas Auer, Maxi Götz third, Nick Cassidy, Foster and Daniel Serra fourth, ahead of Fred Makovici, Patrick Pilet and Nick Tandy. After that, sixth was the Dennis Lind, Andrea Caldarelli, Marco Mappelli driven Lamborghini. The Scott Horse brothers, Mathieu Drudy seventh, ahead of Tristan Vautier, Lewis Williamson and Gary Paffett eighth. Albamba, Timo Bernhardt, Laurens Vanthoor ninth, ahead of Robin Frins, Nico Muller and the DTM champ René Rast. The Monza winning Porsche 11th, so it goes through, as does the Silverstone winning Ferrari. 129, Land Motorsports Audi 13th, ahead of number 76 Aston Martin, the Alex Lynn, Jake Dennis, Marvin Kirchhofer car. Then you have number 35, Nissan, Katsumasa Chiyo, Tsugiya Matsuda and Josh Burden, the Australian. 16th quickest, number 99 Porsche, the Dennis Olsen, Matt Campbell, Dirk Venn. Entry ahead of Com Ledegar, Andrew Watson, Johnny Adams, Aston for Garage 59. Then Sven Muller, Romain Dumas, Mathieu Géminé's Rover Porsche gets into Superpole, as does Mathieu Vazivière, Matt Parry, Maxime Martin's car, and Kevin Estrup, Michael Christensen and Richard Leach round out the 20 that go into Superpole. Here you've got the rest of the order just scrolling through, and still this roll call of the star drivers of GT racing there. There are many we've not touched on yet, including Adam Christodoulou, whose car is 38th on the average. Where did Adam put that? Didn't get into the top 35, oddly, in that final part of qualifying. The Oman racing team, Aston. Nicky Team we've not touched on yet, but Nicky drafted into that car to work his magic, and currently 46th on the aggregate there. Abdelaziz Al-Faisal doing the last stint. Dean Stoneman here for the Ombra racing team. And Andrea Bertolini just been out in the AF Corsa Spirit of Race Ferrari. Missing, of course, number 17, CWR Team WRT damaged Audi, and the number 9 Boutsen Gignon BMW after its dramas in Q1. Right, so that is almost it, because there's going to be the night practice very shortly. And you can see the teams getting ready for that next part of the evening. The Spa pit lane takes on a completely different feel, and of course you'll have all this and then some during the course of the race. So the whole process of qualifying began in the sunshine, and it started with Ricardo Sanchez being first out for the RJN team. We had early dramas. Number 27 having a spin, that was Fernando Navarrete. Number 9 of Eric Maris, though, caused the first red flag. People went back out, checkered flag to end Q1. Ricky Collard having been fastest within that first section of the session. Q2 underway, everybody pouring out on track, looking for clear track space, and some finding it more readily than others, including the 31 Bentley squeezed towards the grass there. The Team Parker racing car escaping in the hands of Ryan Ratcliffe. 110 having had a big lockup going into Les Combes, and off the road fell Alex McDowell, bringing out the second red flag of the session. Cars heading for the pit lane. They were released again with, you'll see in the background, Alexander Imperatori's Nissan slowly down the pit lane to try to get clear track space. Others were on their toes, charging their way through the order, and a big spin right at the very end for the Rinaldi Ferrari. Q3 got underway with number 2 looking very rapid indeed. Alex Riberas at the wheel of the Audi. Frank Stippler would take it over for Q4, and the car would go second ultimately. But as so many drivers have told us, and we pretty much guessed, finding clear track space absolutely vital through all of this. Raffaele Marciello, though, a surprise, not for his pace, but his lack of pace. Only 29th in his own times, and the car dropping out of Superpole. Others weren't so fortunate either, having big moments of running wide through the gravel. One of the drivers delayed Augusto Farfus with the BMW. So that's qualifying done. Now we have night practice to come in a few minutes' time. The warm-up tomorrow before Superpole that shuffles the top 20 on the grid. So there's a lot to look forward to. We'll have a very quick break here, and then in about 10 minutes' time we'll be back with headlight spotting lessons. See you in a few minutes. Night practice.